Hello, hello. Bl'Artagnan here with Dimensions and Transcendence Tier 4 Crucible 2. Got the Angry Mecha Scorpions. We're using a no-burst team featuring Yuffie, Setzer, and Trey. As much as I would love to be like, oh, no burst, look how cool I am, these three are some of the best units you could probably bring to this fight, so like, I can't really toot my own horn that much. This isn't that huge a challenge run, you know? All three of these units really help quite a bit. So what do we got going on here? Well, oh yeah, before we get into what we got going on here, let's do the usual shilling thing. Please be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below with how your experience of Transcendence has gone. I know it's overdone, but it means a lot to me. Anyway, what do we got going on here? So these Scorpions, the way they've always worked is they periodically do this tail raised thing. It basically means they're telegraphing a huge laser attack. They also, in this fight, get this blue aura that makes them immune to instant break effects. Case in point, you will have noticed that Trey, despite having his EX debuff on him, the Fatal Arrow, did not break them. And the reason that's important is because we have a... actually, no, the crit orb is in the next one, isn't it? Yeah, okay. The reason that's important is because it means you need to bring either some really solid shaving, you know, for instance, Barrett with his 100% critical hit rate and tons of hits, or Setzer with his rainbow damage. Or you can bring a freeze effect like Setzer or Yuffie and prevent them from gaining the Brave at all, case in point what you just saw there. That's the deal with the blue things. Interestingly, I'm pretty sure critical damage was dealt just then when Firewall went off, but it didn't actually break the aura, so that's just an interesting little thing to note. I think the critical damage only counts after the turn is ended, as you can just see there. So the two things to worry about in this fight really are the orb, which is requires range damage, along with the red crystal, and that brave gain the brave gains they get either for the blue auras or as part of their tail raised Ferrum laser attack. The thing is, Ferrum laser is purely a battery based attack. It doesn't have brave hits, and we have two very good ranged units right now. We're actually seeing both of them here, who just kind of say, nah, you can't do that. I guess in theory you could also try bringing Edward or Arciella here if you really want to get into that sort of playstyle. Really the only challenging part to face here is that the range damage isn't actually... It's relatively uncommon, especially for burst units. If you're trying to bring a burst unit, you got Eldnarsh, you got Noctis, and I think that's probably it. There might be someone else, but anyway. Oh yeah, they also do that. I'm trying to kind of list off the mechanics. I'm seeing them come up as they come up. They also, at the 80%, 50% thresholds, put this debuff, this corrosion on you, which raises the brave and HP damage you take. This is, of course, to sell, well, kind of sell Yuna, but she's more the other Crucible. This is to sell Yuffie and her debuff throwback. That being said, in this case, I don't think I throw it back to them because... Do I throw it back? No, I don't think I do because... Yeah, because we don't want to push off the freeze debuff. That being said, if we're preventing them from getting brave and dealing HP damage, it doesn't matter that we're taking increased HP damage. Something you've probably figured out by now is the fundamental idea of this team, these three people, is that Setzer plus Trey is hilarious, because Trey using rainbows and not count, he has a ton of off-turn damage which doesn't take down fixed dice. Fixed dice? Fixed dice. I don't know what the proper accent for that is. English is weird. But, yeah, I guess that's kind of the idea with this team here, is we got ourselves a bunch of cool rainbows and a bunch of off-turn brave hits that don't tick down fixed dice, so it's more likely to get those rainbows and just tick up that range damage orb constantly. Trey is one of the MVPs for the stage for that reason. Even though they're immune to that instant break, so his Fatal Arrow doesn't really help as much as it could. The fact that he just pumps out so many ranged hits is really great, because the orb is only +2 on ranged hit, so it only goes up by 1 basically because of how orbs work. And so it can get a little bit testy if you're, it is worth noting. You can just zero turn them. You can do something like a Cypher's amazing here. I saw someone ran a Cypher Cloud of Darkness team, and that was great. Although your options are a little limited because they do a really mean melee counter. if you're bringing Noctis as your ranged BT here, you got to make sure to put some kind of paralyze effect on them before using his EX, otherwise you're going to get owned. I'm pretty sure there's a good chance I just pushed off Setzer's freeze debuff using Yuffie's skill because I wanted the battery on the launch. But that's okay. Something I figured out during the course of this fight, actually, I didn't actually realize it going into it, is, as I said, the Ferrum laser is purely battery based. There's no brave hits, so it doesn't matter that I pushed off Setzer's freeze because Yuffie's freeze actually keeps it from doing anything. Basically, Setzer's here mostly as a rainbow bot. The freeze isn't actually necessary. So that's just a fun little thing I learned. As you can see here, 0 damage, no Setzer freeze. It's all good. We're still good. Trey continuing to rain arrows, using the last of his fixed dice buff. That means it's probably going to be time to refresh that buff on him. Especially with 3 raining arrows queued up. Get that maximum raining arrows damage. There's something I'm noticing with Yuffie, using her here. Her longevity is a little, like, she doesn't burn out quite like, ultimately longevity issues, anything like that. But she does have, I'd say, less longevity than most of the cast. Just from the number of skills she has to use. Again, this is like the first fight I've used her in for serious, so maybe I'll find out that it's not really the case, because she does have a very quick charging EX, reasonably quick charging. And she gets free skills off for LD, which you don't really need to spam, because A, she debuffs speed, and B, she has debuff start, so I don't know. Like I said, this is a learning experience in a lot of ways. Speaking of learning, I've learned that Setzer is a lot of fun to play. Due to the hype behind him, I just kind of assumed he'd be a little bit kind of brainless and like, okay, whatever, rainbow numbers, blah, 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 don't need to think. But he actually has so much going on in his kit, as I kind of hoped he would. Between the freeze, the delays, the rainbow damage, the way his EX works, where it charges super fast, and batteries the party, but doesn't need to be used on recast, because the buff it gives is so long. Just a lot of little decision points that you can play with him that really just feel good to use. I also just think he has a cool aesthetic. Yeah, I know he's a little bit of a creep, the whole forced marriage thing, not great. Not a great look, Setzer. But you can't deny the guy's got some style. Did I just become like a kidnapper apologist? Oh Jesus. Well, that's gonna be terrible for my PR. Oh yeah, they delay you with that hit, I guess. Yuffie just got sent to the Shadow Realm. It's all good though. As I've said a couple of times now, the freeze status, just like preventing Brave Gains, completely neuters this fight. At that point, the only threat becomes the orb, really. And we have Trey, who basically makes the orb a non-issue, so this ends up being a very comfy run. I said in my last video with the jellies, who are ugly and I hate, as opposed to these scorpions, who at least look kind of cool. This is, in my opinion, the easiest of the fights. I think there are certain folks with rosters where that could not be the case because they're maybe lacking in good range characters, or they don't have a way to turn off the Brave Gains. So I could see it giving people issues, but I think of the 3, it's probably the least demanding, because you can turn it off with those 2 things so easily. Just constant range damage and with the battery prevention. Tell you what, if you've gotten this far, you can leave a comment down below with your thoughts on the most difficult of the 3 fights in this stage, or in this tier. I'm curious to hear what folks are saying. Because I've anecdotally heard that some folks are finding this to be the most challenging stage, which I found kind of interesting. I suspect it might be that roster thing I was talking about. Another thing worth noting is, that if you aren't bringing Yuffie to the stage, I could see that HP damage and Brave damage up thing kind of being an issue. Not being able to just throw it back at them. Then again, I didn't bring a burst to the stage, so I'm assuming if you do bring a burst weapon, it probably makes things a lot easier. Of course, since we're fighting robot scorpions, I'm going to bring in the robot music. Shoutouts to Sonic Adventure Battle 2. One of the best soundtracks of all time, in my humble opinion. I keep forgetting that Yuffie's LD gives that post-turn kind of battery for the party based on HP damage. Oh, that's cool. The number of things they stuffed into her kit is pretty nutso. So Using a Freeze Joker there just for the battery, because I realized that at this point I don't really need to hold on to Freeze Joker for timing purposes, because Yuffie is already turning off their gains. So, like, we're just going to go ahead and try to end this. Get another nice battery here. Like I say, the rainbow numbers, I'm loving them. Managed to battery up Trey just in time for that to happen. Ah, man. So, yeah, oh yeah, so I brought the Onion Knight call on Setzer because when I went into this fight, I didn't realize that Yuffie would handle their Ferrum Laser. I thought Setzer's Freeze was going to have to do it, and so I figured I'd need an extra freeze from Onion Knight LD. That ended up not really being the case, so Onion Knight got to make a quick cameo, doing not too much, but he tried. I think that counts for a lot. Trey has really been proving his worth, I gotta say. I'd say Trey is up there with Strago for me in terms of units who you should consider picking up because they have a great mix of utility and damage ceiling that you can really build around. But anyway, that's a whole nother video. There we have it. Crucible 2 of Transcendence 4 cleared without a burst, which is pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you for sticking through to the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Adios.